All right, welcome out to the weekend review and playbook prep. This is our market analysis and preparation for the week ahead. Let's go ahead and start out by looking at the markets from the bird's eye view. Of course, as we mentioned in our advisory report, we are in a favorable market condition. The intermediate trend is bullish. The short-term signal is bullish. We've been like this for a handful of days as we made the call earlier in the week and at the end of last week that we were back to offensive. The intermediate trend is looking very, very, very constructive, and really no complaints. We had a short-term dip below the 30-week moving average in mid-March. It very quickly regained composure, moved back above, and you can see the strong trend off of those lows has really propelled the market to higher. These types of consolidations, move sideways, are very, very constructive. What we really look at when we say this is a flagging pattern, a move up and a flagging pattern, we're looking for a continuation move higher, just a short-term rest before the market decides to take on new highs. If we go ahead and look at the short term, we can see that process has now begun after we had a wave down, a rebound, a shorter wave down, a rebound, a third shorter wave down, and not necessarily wave down. Waves down are usually like lower lows, lower lows. We're just talking about a volatility contraction pattern here where things got tight over the beginning of the week and the market has moved strongly after bouncing off of the 50-day moving average, a key support area for the market, and now threatening to possibly make new highs next week after taking out the short-term relative highs. So the offensive calls by us have been correct thus far. One of the things that we have been looking for is for breadth, trend, and sentiment to line up. It's not quite there yet. Right now, breadth is there. I'm going to talk to you guys here in a few minutes about maybe some leadership back in the MAGS. But for now, there's widespread market movement to the top side, at least from a trend style component. One of the things that we talked about last week was this PMO, and we are noticing that that PMO might have bottomed. It's now making a turn to see if it takes out this trigger line. That'd be a very bullish move, and that would turn the PMO score to a +3, thus giving us a higher ERM score. That doesn't need to mean too much to you other than it's one of the gauges that we use to gauge strength in the market and how committed we should be to the offense or the defense. Let's go ahead and jump down to the RS ratios. And we can see right here that there's a lot of borderline green, a lot of red. So one of the things that we are noticing here is some of the things that were strong, like the mid caps and the small caps, might be giving up a bunch of that leadership. And when we see things that were leading turning negative, our immediate thought is, where are they turning positive? And we can see right here in the MAGS, we have a flip to green. So we'll be looking at the MAGS. We'll be looking at those big time Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, those big names to see if there's a possibility there. I think most likely we will just be really hard looking at the MAGS ETF, which will take a blend of all of those together. Noticing Bitcoin is still relatively a loser here in this market. Technology, a brief dip below the negative. We'll see if that wants to regain its exposure and continue this trend up. We'll see small, short rotations quite often after big moves. Really what we're looking for is we're looking for something that make a sudden decision that it wants to go higher, like the MAGS after really getting beat up over the last few months. Let's go ahead and jump over to Market Lens. I think we'll look really quickly at those MAGS stocks just to kind of see what the individual components are doing there. We have the ETF right here. So here is the MAGS itself, the full ETF. And you can see really getting beat up here. RS just getting decimated. Relative strength, we're plotting the MAGS versus the S&P 500. So numerator, denominator, when the numerator is leading, which would be the MAGS in this case, the line is shifting up. You can see the line has not been shifting up. The line has been sloping down, which means those big name stocks have been trailing the S&P 500, which typically means the other 493 probably have been doing very well. Looking here off the bottom, though, the MAGS have regained some strength. Really what we're looking for is this just a reversion to the mean, back to the average, because it might have been so overdone. One of the things that we're looking at to say, no, that's not the case, is the fact that price jumped above the 50-day moving average and looks very good above the 50-day moving average, breaking out from this small consolidation. So this is why we are looking right now to see if this should be something that we should add to our portfolio. Let's go ahead and look at those stocks. So you can see Meta, a huge jump on almost 6% above the 200-day moving average, trying to threaten some of these relative highs. Not quite the setup that we would want to be investing in quite yet, but maybe some sideways move and then a turn back up might be good. Let's look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA, a nice move again off the bottom, off the 200-day moving average. A strong candle up 4%, closing above its 50-day moving average. So that's really good news. Possibly good news for the AI trade coming back in favor also. We'll go to Tesla, just chopping around, not doing much of anything. Microsoft has been a real dog and looks like it continues to be a dog. Although bouncing off the bottom, you can see not a whole lot as it starts to turn back over. Relative strength has really been pathetic here. So not one that we're looking at. Apple making possibly new highs here, and relative strength strong, even though a little curl over. Possibly just hitting a little bit of resistance, but still one of the individual stocks that's on our watch list. We'll see if it maybe creates a little bit of a handle. We got a double bottom, a move up, a handle, and then possibly we'll see if that ignites the turn back up into new highs to stay into new highs. Google looking a little doggish, although still, not too bad. Building some strength off of the 100-day moving average, and but rejecting the 50 days. So this was a short area right here. Not really a key component for us. And Amazon still not looking too good, although trying to gain some relative strength high. Really the movers here are Apple and NVIDIA driving the MAGS. So instead of trying to maybe pick the MAGS, maybe we'd be going into NVIDIA or Apple, but I think maybe MAGS might be just better, just in case this is a safe haven move, which we've seen in the past. We'll see if this is something that we need to be adding to the portfolio. But that's a bit of our analysis for this week. Just to sum it up really quick, the weekly summary, the conditions are bullish, the intermediate trend is bullish, the short term is bullish, therefore we should be bullish, right? RS ratio, we really see the MAGS right now leading the pack, and you can see a pretty strong consolidation here, a lower low here, so maybe an inverse head and shoulder. You have a head, a shoulder, and now maybe a move above this neckline possibly. And so we'll see how things pan out, but right now we are going to be playing the probabilities, and the probabilities say higher. All right, have a nice weekend, take care, and we'll be back at it on Monday.